Good evening, everyone. I hope you can all hear me and see all three of our fantastic panelists on the screen. If you can do so, please respond with a yes in the chat box so that we know that you're able to hear us and see us. Hello, everyone. Lots of good evening and highs pouring in. Highs and good evenings to every one of you.
Good evening, everybody. I hope we all are audible and visible. Thank you so much for joining us on time. Really appreciate the punctuality here. Everybody coming in. So that's great.
Absolutely. It's a delight to see that some 200 of you have joined us for this webinar today. It's fantastic indeed, and welcome to this webinar series where we're going to talk about of the fantastic domain of commerce and accounts careers. We'll be taking you through commerce stream. We'll be talking about what kind of careers are there with commerce, with maths, without maths, and we're joined with Dr. Mishra today, who's a representative from the OP Jindal Global University, and we're delighted to have him here with us. And we'll pick his brain and his expert insights on what commerce and accounts hold us for future. With that, just to begin and get you started, towards the right side of the screen, you'll see the chat box. In this chat box, you can always ask us questions. Please respond with a question, and us or the Mindler team will be able to respond with answers to your questions. Please don't try and have cross conversations here. It always distracts us. And most of all, technology happens to be sometimes a big issue. So just in case one of us gets lost out for a few seconds, wherein you can hear our voice, but you can't see us on your screen, don't worry about it. We'll be there. We'll be right back. In case you still can't hear us in an automatic manner within about 5-6 seconds, please feel free to refresh your screen and we will be right back with you. And you can hear all the amazing discussions that we're going to have today. All right. So with that thought, Anshita, over to you, and let's kick off this amazing setting of the webinar.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dipankar. It was so lovely and energetic to hear you say all of these instructions out. And thank you so much. I'm really glad and excited since all of you have joined us. Dipankar has already laid out the instructions, and Mindler team is here to answer all your queries. Please be patient. We will be answering most of your queries. In any case, if we miss out on anything, please drop your query to us at hello@mindler.com. Perfect. Let's start. So just to begin with, I would just go ahead and introduce Professor Dr. Anand Mishra, who we have with us here. Dr. Anand Mishra received his doctorate degree from Louisiana State University, USA. Professor Mishra was a recipient of the Gilbert Foundation Fellowship to advance his own doctoral research while contributing to the understanding of financial uncertainty and risk attending renewable electricity generation. Professor Mishra's research work is mainly in the area of renewable energy, finance, and industry practices. Before joining the academics, Professor Mishra worked with the banking and the insurance industry for around good 8 years, and Professor Mishra served in various managerial capacities at ABM AMRO and AXA Insurance as well. So we are delighted to have you on board. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We also have Dipankar with us, and I hope most of you know him. Dipankar is the growth and creative lead at Mindler, and he also leads the international education and liberal arts practice. With experience in social change management, skill building, and business strategy, Dipankar is diligent business professional and also sits on the advisory council of the Global Shapers community of the World Economic Forum. Thank you so much for joining us, Dipankar. We're very, very excited to have you. And for me, I'm Anshita, and I'm a career coach at Mindler. I'm an alum of the University of Delhi and Bangalore University. I have been a career coach at Mindler since almost a huge time. And let's go ahead and start this session now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's kick off this webinar and have an amazing discussion around accounts and commerce careers.
Absolutely. So just to begin with, I would take the opportunity and start from a very broad level. Since this webinar is more about commerce and accountancy and more about it, I will just tell you first what is commerce about. Okay. So all the students who we have here in class 9, 10 who joined us today, just to help you understand what commerce is. Commerce is one name which means trade. It means business. It means any goods and services in exchange of finances, right? And the stream commerce is termed in that way because we are dealing with subjects in the similar fashion. We have three important subjects in commerce. We're talking about business studies, we're talking about accountancy, we're talking about economics. Now, when I talk about accountancy, what exactly do we have in it? So, accountancy is basically wherein each and every penny that you spend, and every penny that you earn in an organization is basically accounted for and compiled in books of accounts. So to go ahead, in 11th and 12th, accountancy is more about a practical subject and it also involves a little bit of theory. So you will be more dealing with a lot of theory. You need not be a math expert. It will be good to have the math subject with you. So you can choose to
Anshita, may I just hold on for a minute, please? May I please request Dr. Mishra if you could just mute yourself for the time being, because then we can hear the ambient noise in the background.
Sure.
I'm going to do the same while Anshita is carrying on.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can we start?
Anshita, you're good to go. Yes, you're good to go.
All right, thank you. Okay, so just going back, accountancy, you will be looking at a lot of numbers in here in 11th and 12th, more like a practical subject, works with great logic. You will be understanding basic concepts as to what accountancy is, like a debit and a credit, a journal ledger, how to start with the accountancy of basics. That is what 11th and 12th accountancy looks like. When I talk about business studies in specific, it's more of a theoretical subject. It talks about the foundations of business. It talks about the processes that business involves. So when you talk about planning, organizing, staffing, execution, all of these are some important elements and activities which grow into major areas of specialization once you exit 12th. So for your 11th and 12th, it will mostly be theoretical. So you will be able to understand all the practices that have been laid out from the very beginning till today. For economics, you will be studying a mix of theory as well as statistical concepts. So you will be understanding in great detail what macroeconomics and microeconomics is. You will be also understanding how demand and supply affect the entire economy. For all of you who are not able to figure out how to go about reading economics times, probably 11th and 12th is the starting point where you could understand these concepts and take a hit at understanding news in this particular newspaper as well. So this is more about the commerce, three important subjects. Along with this, there are a lot of questions around whether we should keep mathematics or we should not. For all those who are comfortable with mathematics, keeping mathematics will be a very good option. But for those who do not like mathematics, CBSE has now introduced the concept of applied mathematics in 11th and 12th. So if you just want a burden a little less, so you can go about applied mathematics as well and take that forward for you to be able to study economics and accountancy in much more greater detail. Otherwise, we're good to go without mathematics also, not a mandatory subject to go ahead with. I hope this is okay. Dipankar, over to you.
For taking us through the commerce stream and the various subjects associated with it. Now that we've understood what the basics of accountancy, economics, and business studies are, let's explore a few career options that you can take up after studying commerce, all right? Now, whether you're looking at maths or non-maths, the careers here would apply to you. Let's start with a career which is basically called management, okay? Now, with commerce, we're looking at management as a career in which we're talking about any sphere where we're looking at the combination of working with people, working with budget, working with resources, working with time to be able to get across a particular outcome. That area is called management. Now, this could be your event that you host in school. It could be an inter-house competition that you do in school. It could also be an organization that the CEO manages, or it could be in the entire country that the PM and the cabinet ministers manage. So there's no level of management. It's just really about how to work with resources, how to work with people, how to work with budgets under time to accomplish a particular outcome. And that's where we're looking at management as one of the areas that you can look at with commerce. We're also looking at a combination of some other interesting careers. Now, for example, distribution and logistics and supply chain. Now, it's really interesting that COVID-19 has led to a few careers seeing a hit, whereas a few careers like e-retail versus such as e-commerce, etc. And you see the rise of new avenues. You see the rise of new business opportunities with platforms like Swiggy and Zomato delivering groceries to you when their core business was delivering food. So we're looking at a combination of distribution, logistics, supply chain to be able to understand what these domains are. Now, for example, you go onto an Amazon or a Flipkart or to any other website and you place an order, right? Now, that order might not be from your particular city. It might be from a different city that is coming through. So, for example, I'm sitting in Delhi and I want to be able to order something that's being made in Maharashtra. Now, it is not possible that a person picks up my order from Maharashtra and starts running towards Delhi. I mean, they could, but ideally they should not. In such a scenario, how to get that product from Maharashtra to Delhi under the minimum amount of time with the maximum efficiency? Should it travel through air? Should it travel through train? Should it get across through road? Whatever medium it reaches me, that's called distribution and supply chain. To be able to manage that with the minimum amount of time and money to get the addresses and the order right, all of that is a part of distribution and logistics and supply chain. We're also looking at a combination of a career like marketing and advertising. Now, marketing is one of those areas which often gets confused for sales. Now, sales and marketing are very, very different, and both are those careers which are open to commerce students. Now, for example, you're looking at a career wherein where you get to promote products. So any kind of promotion that you see, whether it's online or offline, that's a part of something called marketing. Now, when you go to, for example, your big bazaars and you go to your hypermarkets and you see these offers, buy one, get one free, 50% off, buy two, get one, that's all a part of marketing because they want to drive sales. That's a strategy behind marketing. Advertising, when you see all these ads coming on radios, ads coming on TVs, that you buy this is the scheme, you buy this is the scheme. All of that is a part of something called advertising, wherein you're looking at getting the promotion to the audience, getting them to know about your product, getting them to know about your service, so that they can actually understand what your product and service is all about and get across to the element. We're also talking about something called digital marketing, and this is something which is a rage these days, also open to commerce students. Now, for example, until now, about 10, 15 years back, the only chance of marketing was that I used to put up a huge billboard and hopefully people could see on the roads while they were driving. We could also experiment with pamphlets when there was a pamphlet found inside the newspaper and people could recall what is this pamphlet really about and understand what is the product being sold. But with the advent of digital marketing on your platforms like Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, Snapchat, etc., digital marketing gets across to you, wherein you, for example, go to an Amazon or a Flipkart and you particularly say, buy a t-shirt. You really like that t-shirt, and by the time that you go to the payment page, the prices increase and you hit the cross button that this is not for me anymore. The next time you open your Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or WhatsApp, the same t-shirt is right in front of you telling you, I'm now available at 30% off. That's the entire element of digital marketing. How do companies get to know that you're interested in this particular project or this particular product or service? That's again a part of something called big data. Now, for example, big data is nothing but data analysis, wherein you feed a machine or a computer a huge amount of data and help them make decisions. Now, for example, I'll talk to you about my personal case, okay? If you were to go onto my Facebook timeline and look at the pages that I've liked, nearly every Harry Potter page that exists on Facebook, I have liked that page. Right from Harry Potter fans to Harry Potter conspiracy theories, every Harry Potter page that could possibly exist, I'm on that page. Now, just because I'm feeding the machine or the server on Facebook that data, that hang on, I am somebody who's interested and crazy about Harry Potter, Facebook shows me ads, there's a wand available, there's a Hogwarts invitation letter available, there's a robe available, this is a Hogwarts theme party that's happening, this is a Harry Potter theme party, an event that's happening. So I get all sorts of information basis my preferences, basis the data that I give to the machine, which is also a career called big data, wherein lots and lots of people enter their data and they get personalized recommendations. Now, for example of this could be your Netflix or your Spotify account, wherein you get personalized lists. You get, okay, based on whatever you're watching, 1 to 3 serials, you can get across a different element. You can get across a personalized recommendation that these are areas, these are episodes they can also watch. You can get customized recommendations on music. Yet another area that commerce opens up for students, because commerce and accounts, they heavily rely on data. And if you're somebody who's really looking at data as one of the options, there are huge number of career options available to you. So those are some of the careers which are there with commerce, and these are the most trending careers. Anshita, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dipankar. I think all the students, all the people who are here with us, I think you got a very good insight about what are the different lines and what are the different options that you can be able to take up and study afterwards. I will be now focusing a little bit on the side subjects or the side courses that we go ahead with. Now, all the things that are available and you're visible on your screen, these are some professional courses that we're going to talk about. The most common and one of the favorite courses when I talk about commerce and automatically comes to your mind is chartered accountancy. Now, what exactly is chartered accountancy? Chartered accountants are basically professionals who minimize risk, who minimize losses, maintain the accounts of firms and companies which utilize their accounting skills. So basically, they are the people who are noting down each and every debit and credit, every transaction that the company is doing. They are dealing across domains like taxation, audit, investment, finance, etc., and many more other areas. Now, for anybody who wants to go ahead and study CA and become a CA, you can do that right after 12th. Ideal scenario is for all these courses that you please take up an undergraduation degree and start these courses alongside or afterwards as well, as and when you feel comfortable. The way that you go ahead and pursue chartered accountancy will be going ahead with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. You register with them and you proceed with the different levels. There are 3 levels that you will have in this course. As in when you keep clearing papers of one level, you keep moving towards the higher and the difficult level. Now, it can be a very difficult course to look at in terms of the duration to be able to complete it. So be there, hold on if at all you want to be able to become a CA, hold on, don't give up. The next course that we're talking about here is company secretary. Now, company secretary, to be able to give you a best example that we usually use and explain students about it, is that company secretary is basically the class monitor of the company. This course basically allows a company secretary as a link between or a bridge between the company and the board of directors and facilitates all the kind of corporate governance and administrative activities. A company secretary ensures that the company policies are being strictly adhered to and they are revised on a time to time basis. They have an in-depth knowledge and training in the company law. It is also one of the most followed and sought after courses in the graduation and after 12th as well. This is carried out by the Institute of Company Secretary of India. So you go ahead and register with them and then you can pursue this course. Similarly, like CA, this has different levels. So as and when you keep clearing papers, you move ahead. Moving forward with the areas of actuarial sciences. Now, actuarial sciences is something that anybody and everybody might not like because this is an area, this is the professional course which is taken up by people who are extremely good at mathematics. Actuarial sciences requires you to love mathematics to the core. Actuarial sciences is basically the discipline that applies mathematical and statistical concepts and methods to analyze risk, to understand fields like insurance and other finance related industries and professions. For this as well, you can go ahead and pursue the same after class 12 by giving the exam called ACET, and you register yourself with the Institute of Actuaries of India, and you can take this up with your graduation degree as well. So that's about actuarial sciences. There are other courses like a certified financial analyst. For certified financial analyst, this is a basically specialization course for professionals who look for specialization in financial decision making, investment policies. You are basically going to be one resource person for the company who will tell me, okay, do I go ahead and invest this much money on this particular area or on this particular product or not? What are the kind of what is the kind of return of investment that I'm looking forward to? What are the kind of risk that is there involved? So for the CFA course, you have to be an undergraduate first, and then you can be able to pursue this course. A chartered financial analyst is also the person who's trained in the management accounting, financial management, investment decision. So he will be the right person for you, who will be able to tell you what kind of investment decisions you have to make. Moving ahead with that, most of the students and people talk about giving exams of banking. Now, for somebody who's really interested in going ahead and studying more about banking and its operations, for you to be able to give those exams, you have to be an undergraduate and then you can pursue these exams. There are many exams conducted by SBI and all other private banks as well. Some require you to do a specialized course, some require you to give an entrance exam. Please make sure that all the operations that you see in the banking procedures are followed here. You will be given a training here, and then you move forward and take up the role. So for CFA and banking and finance, you have to be an undergraduate. For CA, company secretary and actuarial sciences, you can start right after 12th, just to clear it. Moving ahead with the digital marketing piece, digital marketing is one of the most upcoming areas, one of the most exciting areas to look at. Now, please understand this is not a degree. This is not like a professional course like the others, but this is one of the most important skill set and one of the most professional course that is coming up in this particular scenario where we are all under the state of lockdown. We are all working from home. Digital marketing is the new game altogether. For you to be able to understand all the details about getting to know about this webinar, you being able to come live with this and look at this webinar and see so many ads, so many other things. What is digital marketing all about? This is about making it attractive, making it look amazing, and something that you will approach to, something that attracts your eye. So that's the digital marketing piece. You can go ahead and take up certifications online. You can go ahead and take up a lot of offline courses as well in this area. A lot of good universities are also giving you some kind of certification programs in this particular area as well. So these are all the different professional courses and certifications that you can take up along with your graduation or after graduation. So I hope I am clear here and I've been able to convey my message across.
Thank
Over
you,
to you,
Anshita,
Dipankar.
and thank you so much for taking us through the exciting certifications possible with the commerce. I also do want to highlight that when you look at the commerce domain, an undergraduate degree in commerce, whether it's BBA, BMS, or it's BCom, I think they're the most diverse set of degrees because you can follow it up with so many things. You can look at a BCom LLB combination, you can look at a BCom MCom, you can look at a BCom MBA, you can look at a BCom MCA. There are so many things that you can get across to, and that means there are so many career options to be able to enter into the domain of commerce and accounts. So right from investment banking and consulting to, let's say, the exciting domain of auditing and taxation to the domains of compliances, there's so much more to do with commerce. And this is where I invite Dr. Mishra, because we've all spoken about this domain of commerce and accounts, but we do want to be able to understand from the person who's been there, done that, as to what the domain of commerce and accounts holds on for the future. So if you could just take a few minutes to be able to help us understand what is this domain of commerce and accounts holding up, especially in the current scenario. And then, of course, we'd love to know about the program that is being offered at OP Jindal Global University.
Thank you, Anshita and Dipankar. I'm very happy to be here. There are a lot of things that can be said about financial services and accounting services these days. In fact, I'm a chartered financial analyst myself. I did my CFA back in 2002, 2003. And CFA charter itself has undergone dramatic changes. And the reason it has undergone dramatic changes because the financial services itself is undergoing dramatic changes. If all young students who are present here did a very simple Google search, and if they search for roughly this kind of search string, that future of accounting, you will hit upon thousands and thousands of articles which will be casting some sort of doubt on the future of accounting. and I am not one of those who would basically, subscribe to that viewpoint. I think the future of accounting is pretty bright. But let me lay down very succinctly and a very, very simplified way why people are talking about, why account is under some sort of threat. So I'm going to give you an anecdote, not anecdote, basically a very brief story from history. That in late in 1990s, Gary Kasparov played a chess, game with a supercomputer called Deep Blue, and Gary Kasparov gave a very good fight to that supercomputer, but eventually Gary Kasparov lost that. Gary Kasparov recently, in fact, a couple of years ago, said in an interview that it's available on YouTube if you're curious about that. He said that any simple app, chess app on your iPhone can beat me these days. So what has happened? Of course, I mean, processing power and computing power has expanded dramatically, but that's not the idea I'm trying to convey to you. I'm saying that any task that is programmable will be taken over by artificial intelligence and machine learning. At this time today, more than 50% of the stock trading in stock market, even in Indian stock exchange, is happening through algorithm, that is programs. Accounting, basics of accounting, or rules of accounting has very well set rules, debits and credits. Most of the transaction, if not all, around 80% of the transaction follows certain kind of rule. Anything that follows rule can be programmed, and if it can be programmed, that will be taken over by artificial intelligence. But does it mean accounting is dead? No, it's just that accountants need to learn something else. Young people like not something else, something better within the accounting field. That is why you'll find that CA is also changing its curriculum. CFA is also changing its curriculum. In fact, every professional program in India and abroad is changing its curriculum. And they are adding a layer to all other kind of knowledge that is being provided to students. Layer of little bit of introduction to programming, little bit of understanding of algorithm, that how they interact with each other, how trade happens, how transactions are done with the help of artificial intelligence. Reason young student here present here should know about this, because by the time you are ready for work life, the things would have changed dramatically. So all of you who is interested in financial services or commerce or even digital marketing or actuarial sciences or CA, any other field, any field which is related with business, even logistics, you have to be interested in technology. You have to be interested in blockchain. Some of you may be aware of that. Many of you should be interested in artificial intelligence, machine learning. Am I asking you to become an engineer? No, I'm not asking you to become an engineer. What I'm asking you to do, be curious about these things and know how to harness the power of artificial intelligence and machine learning in enhancing your role as a financial manager or any kind of manager or any kind of professional industry. So very soon you're going to have apps in your phone which will harness the power of machine learning, and you will be able to transact, you'll be able to conduct trades, you'll be able to do a lot of things with the help of artificial intelligence. Therefore, even in our BCom program, we introduce I like to believe that our BCom program is a bit different from many other BCom programs. I personally teach students how to do basic kind of Python programming. I teach students how to work with software called Tableau, so that they can work around with data and can make a lot of charts, and basically learn the way how to present information to people and any kind of consumer of the data. So CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst, has added a level 4, which is purely made up of algorithms and technology. It was not there in my time. CA, I was speaking to one of the managing member of board of CA. They are also planning to introduce a course on that. You still have to learn corporate finance, you still have to learn accounting, you still have to learn economics, you still have to learn micro and macroeconomics, you still have to learn taxation, GST and other things. But along with that, you need to understand blockchain, you need to understand artificial. At this point in time, I'll stop for a bit and let you ask me more questions so that I can get the conversation in right direction, whichever way you want this conversation to go.
Thank you so much. That's really nice. And in fact, I wanted to say this out loud. Thank you so much, Dr. Mishra, that you covered it. That just because we are also in the state of lockdown, you can see that there's a lot of anxiety about how we're going out for work and all of these things. And suddenly the new medium is online. Suddenly everything is switched to online. And the necessary skill set that we need to have is definitely what Dr. Mishra rightly conveyed here, that programming, at least you being able to be comfortable with the technology to use it, that's something which is very, very important. And you don't have to be an engineer, very rightly said. Another question that now there's a lot of times that we witness that these are some of the confusions that we have. So, Dr. Mishra, I just want you to understand and help us put a little shed a light on this, that how are BCom and BBA degrees a little different?
So I was a banker for 9 years, and then I decided to become an academician. And I have taught in law school, I have taught in business school, and I have taught in, now I'm teaching in banking and finance. And I have taught finance in law school, I have taught finance in business school, and now I'm teaching finance in banking and finance school. In fact, I have even taught finance to liberal arts students. The point that I'm trying to make is that almost every school, every program, at least in our university, and I'm sure that it's true of many programs across India, and it's common in USA, almost every program teaches economics. Law students also study economics, liberal arts students also study economics, international affairs students also study economics, our BCom students also study economics. You will find that BBA will have a lot of courses, at least in terms of title, you'll find a lot of commonality between BCom and BBA at a very superficial level. There will be economics, there will be financial accounting, there will be corporate finance, there will be risk management, and various kinds of courses. There will be few courses which will be very exclusive and special to BBA. I'm going to touch upon that if time permits. But the emphasis is very different. Law school students, when they study economics in a little bit more narrative style. When liberal arts students study economics, they also study history of economics, psychology of economics, and several other things thrown in. When a BA economics student studies economics, they study economics in a very mathematical and quantitative way. When BBA student studies economics, that student studies does not so much focuses on macro and micro, studies managerial economics. What BCom student studies is basically how just that amount of economics which helps that student to make sense of what is happening in financial market, various kinds of financial market, not just equity market, not just derivative market, commodity market, but general market itself. So first of all, curriculum may look similar, but the emphasis is different. That's everyone needs to understand. Secondly, BCom's program is basically sort of tries to make at a very young age a little bit of tries to make a specialist out of you, that you are focused on few courses but you go deeper into that, whereas the BBA program will offer you wide variety of courses, because a manager has to be aware of marketing, supply chain management, operational issues, strategic management issues, HR issues, organizational behavior issues. So therefore they are squeezing a lot of things in a very, very short span of time. Is it a bad thing? Definitely not. It's an idea of focus. What do you want to do with your life? If you want to become a manager, and if you're sure at a very young age that you have already decided that you want to become a manager, then perhaps BBA will make a lot of sense to you, because it's going to expose you to a wide variety of courses. As opposed to that, BCom is going to focus on few courses, but it's going to take you deeper. So maybe we can talk about whether it's a good idea to do BCom first and know a few subjects very well and then go on to do your MBA. These are all up for debate. I'm not going to comment on that at this stage, but essentially that is the difference. So BCom will focus on mostly on accounting, economics, a little bit of technology, a little bit of taxation, a little bit of corporate law and finance and risk management, and some entrepreneurship courses. For example, in our BCom program, there is a course on marketing of financial services, because we are banking and finance. So we can also include marketing, but wherever it is relevant. but we teach whatever is relevant for the banking and finance industry. So focus is there. Where the BBA is a very, very wide variety of courses are taught to students. I hope to some extent it answers your question.
It
Thank you so
definitely
much.
does. And I think from my perspective, it's a traditional debate between generalization and specialization, which way you want to be able to go. And when you say that economics is one thing which is like standard across all the spectrums that you possibly can study, I completely agree there, because economics is perhaps the only subject which is as relevant to the UN as it is to a sabzi wala on the road. So that's where economics really comes in, and it really helps if a student has studied economics to be able to get across to a BB or a BCom, which kind of gets me across to our next question, which is that there's a very popular myth, and I think it's a perception which is very obsolete in nature, probably trickling down from generations, which is if you don't have maths with commerce, there is no world for you. Like you're done for. There's zilch options for you. So what's your opinion on that? If a student does not have maths at 11th and 12th, what options open up for them vis-a-vis commerce and accounts, and how important is math in, let's say, in this domain of careers that we're looking at?
Sure. So any young student who's comfortable with technology will be able to address any mathematical or statistical issue is thrown at him or her. Let me elaborate on that. Or let me perhaps begin with a very simple premise. No, maths is not very important. Let me, brush it off the table right now. If you are good with maths, that's wonderful. Is it math essential? Perhaps not. The only thing that is required that you should not be afraid of number. There should not be any phobia with them. If you are good with maths, perhaps in commerce area, there are a lot of areas okay, I'm sorry. I have to basically take a step back to basically organize this answer a little bit more. I used to work with a bank called ABN AMRO Bank, which has 28,000 employees across the world. It was a Dutch bank. Out of these 28,000 employees, almost 70 to 80% employees were in the marketing and sales department. Rest were spread across operation, IT, HR, and the very few, something like 0.5% of 28,000 people were functioning in an area which required deep knowledge of mathematics and statistics. They were into product structuring, coming up with the new products which could address risk issues related with risk and management of risk. Only 0.5% of those 28,000 were, which is still true. Does it mean, so therefore, answer is pretty much out there, blowing in the wind. Is math essentially important to work for a bank and financial services? That's not true. That's not true at all. But if you can operate, or if you can work on software, if you can work on certain kind of program, you will be able to solve many complicated mathematical problem and statistical problem. If you are comfortable with some software like Tableau, if you are comfortable with a little bit of Python programming, you can actually perform very complicated mathematical without even understanding much about mathematics. Most jobs in real life do not require, for example, do you understand how this laptop on which we are basically using, I'm using a laptop. I don't know how to put together this laptop, but I can use it very efficiently. And that's what you are going to be doing. You'll be using some program and software to solve some very, very complicated issues, but you don't need to understand how that program was actually written and how the program is actually optimizing all these kind of solutions. So no, maths and statistics is not absolutely essential, but it is good to know, because life becomes a little bit easier. Will you be able to finish BCom very easily and with flying color? Of course you can. Because even at our BCom program, we have only one course of business mathematics, where the 10th level of mathematics is taught, and little bit of calculus, because that is required for a little bit of finance and economics, and that's about it. But if you are one of those students who are interested in maths and thrive in mathematical challenges, there is a stream of commerce and finance, which I already told you, 0.5% of jobs go to those people. You can actually specialize in that. So commerce is open to all kinds of people who do not have mathematics as background, people who are essentially, not just interested, but they love mathematics. Commerce is good for them as well.
Thank you so much, sir. I think that gives us a very good insight. And since we also had a lot of questions around the same area about mathematics being a mandate subject for being able to study these degrees, I think it's very, very clear. Now, also with that, I see a lot of questions regarding how do you gain that exposure, right? So when you step out of 12th, you get enrolled in these degrees. A lot about how will this be applied in the real work scenario becomes a big question mark. And where do you go? Where do you find exposure? What are the opportunities that you should be looking out for? There needs to be some direction. So according to you, what do you think are the important internships that we need to keep in mind? Or what are some of the popular areas that commerce students can intern in?
Okay. So there's a cultural issue here in India. When I was undergoing my CFA program, I there was no one who was talking to me about the importance of interning, importance of working on projects. In fact, companies were not even interested in giving projects to someone like me who was barely 16, 17-year old or 18-year old. And because the culture was not, even now that culture is not there, but I see some movement there. Whereas in developed countries, students at a very young age begin to intern with several kinds of companies and basically they volunteer as well. I see some movements there. To my students, this is what I say: uh, volunteer, work for free, ask for work. Wherever you find work, you promise to tell people that you will work for them for free and you will work very hard. Very soon you go, and not just financial services company, even to BCom students. I tell them go work with an NGO, go work with a community service provider, go work with startups, go work with small retail shops owner, because there is a lot of opportunity to understand how these businesses are put together. You would be surprised to know within 5 6 years, perhaps after volunteering in various kind of service, you may have an idea which will create some sort of app and you will simplify a business or some component of business for one of these people, and very suddenly you will become a very good entrepreneur. So I understand young students face a lot of challenges in getting projects, getting internship from industry. In order to foster this kind of culture, the not only industry gives project to young student, and young student also actively go out and seek these kind of projects. It's very important that people who are present, I'm sure that all of young students who are present here are from very good schools and very enlightened souls. This is what they should be doing. Here in my school and university, students are encouraged to just walk into professor's room and ask, are you working on something? Are you writing something? Can I just enter data for you? Can I do some sort of basic research for you? So all these things become very collaborative exercise and students benefit, they learn, and their CV is also embellished and enhanced. That's all I can say right now, Anchita, to your question. I will not say that students should be interning in one particular sector over the other. At this young age, till the time you are only 21, 22, volunteer, work for free, and work hard, and work for any kind of industry, any kind of work.
Thank you so much. I think that's something that we also and all our mentors also reinforce the idea that it's very, very important for all the students, all the young people to please understand and experience those areas that you study during your college. And right now is not probably the best time to be able to focus on the money, but right now is the best time to be able to focus on the experience that you're getting. Right. Over to you, Dipankar.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And funny that you mentioned, Dr. Mishra, about the internships and the industry academia interface, because that's what exactly what I was going to ask you. That commerce and perhaps the financial services industry as a whole is something which needs to be on the nick of time with the changing world. One technology here, one technology there. If you can't capture, if you can't leverage that time, it all goes for a fallout. So my question is that most above everyone else, commerce and financial services professionals need to be ahead of time. So how do we make sure that your students at OP Jindal Global University have that industry academia interface and they're better prepared than other people when they're looking at the future of work?
So as I said, I have work experience around 8 years. I will not talk to you much about myself. We have a very good balance of faculty members who have substantial amount of work experience. I'll give you the extremities. There is Professor Rama Ramachandran, who has worked for 25 years in New York, and he was MD of E&Y in New York. He is our faculty member. I have worked for 8 years. There are other faculty members who have worked in variety of industry, and there are some faculty members who have been always been academicians. So we have a balance of that's one way of providing some sort of experience to students within the classroom, that how industry functions and how these whatever concepts that are being taught to students within the classroom, how they're applied. That's one way of doing that. Second way that we do is basically we have ENY, KPMG, and various other companies. They come and actually teach certain things to our students. For example, right now ENY is delivering a course called GST, Custom and Indirect Taxes, to our students of the first year. So ENY professionals actually come and deliver this. Similarly, KPMG does some module on forensic accounting and basic financial accounting. So they bring in a lot of case studies, their real life experiences to the classroom. And the third way that we do is basically we have we as I told you, we keep encouraging students to intern not just once in a BCom program, after the end of every semester. So after the end of every semester, most of our students go for internship, and when they come back, they actually make presentation, they present a report, and they present it to not just to their class. They present it to basically this kind of presentation is open to university. Anyone can walk in and actually ask some question and learn from that. So these are three ways, and of course, universities such as ours, basically on any given day, there will be at least 2-3 people from some industry or some part of the world will be there and delivering some sort of seminar and workshop. This is what we do essentially. Of course, there are many other things, small things that we do, but in organized fashion, these are the 3-4 things that we, on a regular basis and sustained basis, that we do. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. That really helps.
Definitely. And moving forward from this particular area that you also focus on, so many new programs that are coming up, so many new changes that we see are happening on a practical level. So educating students about the same is extremely critical, and it becomes probably the responsibility of the university to be able to guide their students in that way. And yes, with that, it's very important that they take up internships and understand that in a practical way. Uh, Coming up with that, what do you think are the different avenues of studying at OP Jindal University is open for students?
So I was when you were showing your slides to students, I hope you can hear me. There was a little bit of lag there. There are a couple of other programs that are there. For example, you must be aware there's a program called CMA and there's a program called CIMA. There's a CPA and ACCA. I have enrolled myself in a new program called CFT, Chartered Financial Technologist. So at this age, I've decided to basically do this course, which is a new course, but I'm telling you, my hunch is that in 5-6 years, this is going to be a very important course. Similarly, there are programs like Chartered Digital Financial Technologies. Various new kinds of programs are coming, which are not really famous at this point in time, but the way industry is changing, the way society is changing, I'm sure these kind of programs will come. What do we do in our university? Various other kinds of programs. I hope, Anchita, you're talking about programs that are related with finance and commerce, or any kind of program?
Yes, all of them on a broader level.
All right. So in our university, there are 9 different schools. There is a law school, there's a business school, banking and finance, international affairs, public policy, liberal arts, art and architecture, journalism. And new school, which is environmental studies. So these schools are there. One of the good thing in our university, and the vision behind our university, is of interdisciplinarity. What I mean by that, our student in their third year, BCom student in their third year, they are allowed and they have choice of taking elective courses from any of these other 8 schools. So they can take courses from law school, they can take courses from international affairs, public policy, journalism, liberal arts, because at such kind of young age, students are not really aware as to which direction they would like to move. And in fact, because of these things, we have begun to offer some very interesting courses. For example, recently we have introduced a course called Investment in Arts, Sports Management, Sports Finance, because of this interdisciplinary nature. So there are some students who are interested in art, and they became very curious. Is there a possibility to invest in art? Then they figured out, yes, of course, a lot of people do invest in art. So how do you manage that kind of business? So we developed a course around that. So because of these kind of cross currents that happen within the university or across 9 schools, very fascinating range of courses that have come in. So in any given semester, we have around 220 elective courses from Mahabharat to comic book to artificial intelligence to blockchain. Everything is on offer to students. It becomes quite confusing, but that's where we come in. We advise and help students to pick and choose. Anyway, so there are 9 schools. I'm sorry, I digressed a bit. I hope it was useful.
That's okay.
That definitely helped, Dr. Mishra, because one of the consistent questions that we're seeing in the chat box is that since commerce opens up a lot of doors, right, from investment banking to taxation to consulting, to management accounting, how does one really go about selecting what is the area they want to specialize in? And when you spoke about the CFT and FRM and all these plethora of new courses that are coming in, how do students ensure that this is the way to go? Could you throw any light on that?
That's a very tough question. In fact, I teach I have taught in some IIMs also. Even in IIMs, so students even at the MBA level are not very sure as to what they should be doing. That's not a problem at all. Whether a student is clear about his or her choice of career at the age of 16. I think 16 is too young. And as you were rightly pointing out, generalization versus specialization, when should you begin to specialize is a very right question. But let me not digress and try to answer your question. I think till the age of 18, 19, I think students should expose themselves within a broad area. For example, even if you're talking about commerce and business education, one should be open to various kinds of things: law, technology, finance, accounting, even art, because most of the interesting products and services that have come in last few years across the world, they are in some ways combination of something or the other. So even Amazon would not have been possible if certain kind of technology had not enabled it, right? There are a lot of, you can take any product and put, break it apart, you'll find that a lot of things have come together. Therefore, it is very important for students till the age of, they should be exploring wide variety of area till the age of 18, 19. You can't sit a room and actually think very hard and decide that this is what I like. You don't get to know what you like unless you struggle with it, you suffer with it, and get your hands dirty. So get your hands dirty with as many things as possible until you are 19 or 20. In fact, even if it gets delayed, do not worry overly about that. When you are going to find your interest area, you will be very good at it because you will have explored. For example, the from Jeff Bezos to Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was not an engineer. Steve Jobs was a liberal arts student. The reason he could put together such fascinating business because he got curious about not finance, he got curious about technology, and he brought in his background of liberal arts and he put together this fascinating product and company. So it's very important for students to expose themselves to wide variety of areas. So I will say that please do not worry about the specialization bit till the age of 20. Expose yourself to wide variety of courses at least till 20 and then worry about your specialization.
Thank you so much. Anchita, over to you.
Thank you so much. I think that answers a huge amount of queries that we have here in the chat box.
And since that's something that we face every single day, I thought, why not give you some of the taste of the medicine and see what your reaction to that kind of a question would be.
I don't know whether I helped or not. I hope.
Oh, you certainly did. Anchita, over to you.
All right. Talking about all of these specializations that we have and the options that we will be able to look at in the coming future. And also you mentioned a lot of the different kind of electives that are available at OP Jindal, and students can choose according to their wish. And I think we have a lot of queries here which talk about how careers in commerce and psychology can be looked up to. So if you want to share some insights about that, we will be more happy.
Oh, fascinating. I love this question. So psychology, behavioral science, and finance. This is one of the most exciting area in finance these days. Behavioral finance and behavioral economics is the most fascinating area. The recent couple of years, the Nobel Prize was also awarded that. A lot of industry, a lot of company policy makers are actually taking note of that. Students who are interested in this kind of area should read books by Taylor and Kahneman, fascinating books, and they will learn a lot. If they actually expose themselves to these kind of concepts at the young age, it will do them a lot of good. Anyway, lot of banks, lot of financial services company put together products and services while keeping in mind behavioral aspects of individuals and psychological aspects of individuals. You are too young to understand right now, but most of the products, most of the advertisement communication pieces and services are structured in such a way to entice you, to fascinate you, and also solve some of the problems that you're facing. Any finance student who is curious and aware of psychological and behavioral issues related with various kinds of people, when I say various kind of people, the cultural, anthropological, historical aspects of their personality, and also class issues, if you are aware of all these things, you will become a very successful finance and commerce professional. So behavioral economics, behavioral finance, I will urge all young students here to go on Google and search for it. You'll find fascinating amount of articles and fascinating articles there, content-wise as well. I hope I have answered at least some part of it.
Excellent. I think psychology is one of those domains which is kind of merging with all sorts of career avenues, right from banking to financial services to consulting. I think psychology going forward is going to be one of those areas which is going to meld beautifully with all the careers that we are looking at in the most conventional sense. And with that, I really want to thank you for the excellent insights that you've given us, and to all the students who attended this webinar. We've had a tremendous success with this webinar, and we, for the first time, have closed on time, wherein we're looking at sessions being delayed. We're closing on time. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mindler team, for being there and supporting us with the chat. Thank you, every single one of your students who've asked those questions. I hope all of the questions have been answered by Mindler team in the chat box. If they haven't been answered or you have some follow-up questions, please reach out to us at hello@mindler.com. That message has been pinned down on the chat box. Please reach out to us. And most of all, thank you, Anshita, for helping me through this. And Dr. Mishra, thank you again so much for helping us understand what this domain of accounts and commerce holds out for us. And we really value the insights that you've given us today. And I'm sure a lot of students will be benefited by the kind of insights that you've given today. Thank you so much. All right. And with that, thank you so much, students. I do see a few messages coming in, which are all great in terms of feedback, and they're all thanking Dr. Mishra for his insights. And we hope to do some more webinars very soon. And students, keep tuned. There's a whole lot of series of webinars coming to you in terms of other avenues, other industries, and we'll be there to help you towards your career guidance goals. We'll be there to help you make the right decisions. Trust us, Mindler is always there to help you. With that thought, have a great evening, all the very best, and we're going to see you sometime very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.